Okay, so this is part 3 of this basic Sculptris tutorial, and I'm going to show you how to add some textures and some color to your sculptures. So, at this point, it's very important. You actually probably should be saving along the way. I didn't really cover that much, but you click the Save button here, and I'm going to make it a basic file name L1. And the purpose for doing that so simply is that it actually comes kind of frustrating. Next time I actually go to save, if I were to do something else to it, click Save, it makes me retype the name. So if I had a big long descriptive name, kind of becomes a pain. But I'm going to do L2, and the reason for having multiple versions of that is because I'm about to change a bunch of things that are pretty drastic, and there are some things that if you change here, you just can't go back. So one of those, for example, is if I were to click this paint button, and that's what I'm going to show you again with the textures and the paint in this section of the tutorial. So click paint, and it says you can't go back to sculpt after painting. So again, I saved L1, now I'm doing this to L2, so I got a different file, and it's going to process for a minute, and while it's doing that, I'm going to show you this texture file I downloaded. I just went and found a basic picture of a lizard texture. Okay, you can find different kinds of textures for different kind of things, wood grains, whatever, but this lizard texture is going to work pretty good. It's going to ask me to do something to the texture in Photoshop, so I'm going to launch Photoshop. Fairly certain it will ask me to do that, and the texture needs to be a JPEG file. Okay, so it's loaded in Photoshop. Sculptris is still converting this thing. Okay, it's loading up, and okay, that's done. Now I've got my different tools up here. Paint color. Right now I need to choose a brush, and what I've done. Oh boy, it's running slow on account of Photoshop. Okay, tick tick. Here we go. What I did in Photoshop was I just did File, New, and I created a new brush that was like, I don't know, 100 by 100 pixels. Okay, and then I'm going to take my paintbrush tool here, and I'm going to set the size of this so that it roughly fills that. I don't want to go much bigger than that, and I'm just going to click. It's painting green. Let's undo that. Let's set the, oops, where'd it go? Set the colors back to default, and I can set the hardness down a little bit. And I'm just going to click and hold, kind of polish around there. Oh, my flow is set low. Okay, I haven't used Photoshop for a couple minutes. There we go. Okay, so I just got this kind of splotch thing. I'm going to just save as, and that's going to be my basic brush. And I'm just going to save it right now to the desktop for convenience sake. Okay, and that's fine for the quality. Now I'm going to go into ZBrush, and boy, it's going crazy. Double click on that. I'm going to go New for the brush. And I'm going to go to my desktop where I just created basic brush. Select that, and it'll pop up in here. Now, I've got that. I can hit that. Selected it, and now that I've got that, here we go. You can see I can start to paint colors out, and it's going to paint whatever color I pick with the color picker here. Okay, basic color picker. So, before I get too into that, I'm going to undo that paint on there. I'm going to go into my texture. I just want to double check and see what it's asking for here. So I'm going to do, is that right? Come on, computer. You can do this. Okay. So I'm going to go into New. And I'm going to select that snake skin, lizard skin texture. And it's probably going to give me a warning message and say it's the wrong size. But let's see. Oh, no, it worked. Okay. So now I'm just going to double click on that. And I've got my regular brush with my snake skin texture. And again, you can just Google for snake skin or whatever. It's pretty easy to find. And I'm going to set my color here to, let's set it to like a funny green for the foreground color. And let's set the background color to a like a dark blue-black kind of a thing. Okay, as we wait. Okay. Now at this point, I'm gonna quit out of Photoshop, free myself up a little bit of RAM, and fancy that, it didn't do my color how I wanted it to. My computer's just mad because I was running Photoshop at the same time. So let's try to get this color picker back up. Set green for my foreground color. Hit OK. And can I select my background color? You can desaturate that if you want. Okay. Oh, the lag. Okay. We'll just leave it for the foreground color as green for now. I'm going to make my size on my brush really big, and I'm going to enable texture, and I'm going to enable color, or brush, so it's going to do both at the same time. And let's hover over this guy. Where's my cursor? Okay. And now I'm just going to click and drag out, and you can see that it's applying that texture as like a kind of like a bump map. All right. And if you go over it too many times in the same spot, it can start to just get kind of like smeary and kind of muddy. Okay, so you get the general idea. Now I'm going to disable texture. Whoa. Okay, so I've disabled texture. I'm on my brush here. If I disable it, let's see what happens. Okay, so now I'm just filling in just flat color. All right. Okay. Let's go back to my texture. And let's just go to paint bump. So I've painted in the color. Now I'm going to just do just texture. Let's go ahead and enable that. And just start painting it on there. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, make the size of my brush a little bit bigger, make the hardness and the strength up. Okay, and now you can see when I hover over, you can kind of see that faint ghosting of that snakeskin texture. Let me bring the hardness back up. That didn't stay up for some reason. I apologize for the long awkward pauses and the lag I'm experiencing. This is making this tutorial sort of drag a little bit, but you can kind of get the idea. This is how you're going to be able to create textures onto your sculpture. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and leave it off with that. At this point, you've got a pretty basic tutorial in 3 parts of how to create a figure, use some of the basic tools for just creating a face to begin with, and then adding a body out of a second sphere, and then starting to add some color. Okay, go ahead and experiment with the colors, use multiple colors and kind of overlap them, use multiple textures at different parts of your creature, and just kind of have fun with this. Thanks for watching.